Just wondering what the typical dimensions are of most of them.
And it's probably ideally maybe 4 feet wide, 7 feet long, maybe 5.5 feet tall. But again, it's with the materials that I find. There's kind of a sweet spot of parking it and pushing it too. I've made everyone, hey, give me bigger, give me bigger. Then pretty soon you can't really push it. It kind of defeats that mobility, that kind of cat and mouse game that you play with the city. But they're all a little different. I mean, it's enough to lie down. You got some shelves, and you can put your stuff away and kind of secure everything. Not much bigger than a car. Just so you can keep on the street. You can use that model of when you park your car, you leave it there. You have this space that isn't used. Using that, well, let's make it a home for someone.
Keeping in touch with the people who lived in the houses, can you give us an example of feedback you got on one of the houses you built that then later influenced later builds?
Storage was a big one. Actually, this is Johnny, whose home burned. He had the fish tank in it. And after he rebuilt it, he put storage underneath to put stuff. That was one thing he did, which I guess influenced me. I don't want to introduce too much. I want to keep it raw and let the person kind of build it a little bit themselves. I don't want to introduce too much storage. As we know, once you have space, you fill it up with stuff, usually. I mean, every person's home I go into, no matter how many rooms they have, it's cluttered. So I just kind of want to give them a raw space. I really don't deal in mattresses and stuff like that, the bed bug factor. Let them drag it in if they want. I mean, I just try really, for me, it has to be rain tight, it has to have a lockable door, good solid walls, at least 2 entrances, 2 exits. Of course, if I was using money, I mean, I build a home. Yeah, normally they cost me between $20 and $60. I mean, most everything's donated. I mean, screws are easy to find, nails, things like that. The cost, kind of the casters, it's a little bit bigger wheels than your shopping cart, a little bit more heavy duty. Paint brushes and paint rollers are some things that I buy, but you can find tons of paint on the street, tons of material. I mean, when you're building small, you just find, a little bit of 2x4s, and that's good for your house. So, I can just go to dumpsters, I can go to work sites, I can just grab piles out of the street and, cobble a home together.
Do you think this could or should, and how might it go from 60, 70 units to, let's say, 6,000 units, which is how many unsheltered there are in San Francisco and Oakland?
I mean, I think the big thing for homelessness, other than being kind of taboo, is land. Where are you going to find land? In the Bay Area, it's tough. I mean, I'm sure everyone here has a housing crisis story, what you pay for rent or finding a place or trying to buy a house. And when things are, in West Oakland, to me, the house just sold for $1.2 million. This was in traditionally a really bad area. It's funny, right across the street from the $1.2 million house, you got 2 of my homes. So whoever moved in, there's already 2. You'd have to be managed. I mean, I think the real issue is waste. Where do these people use the bathroom? Where are they getting cleaned up? Where's access to clean water? I mean, we afford animals more rights than people. I mean, if you lock your dog in your car and you're here, I could break your window and free your dog, and you're going to get a ticket. If someone's out in the rain in the street under a tarp, they don't care, right? So I don't know. It could. I mean, and I think now it's kind of getting to a point. I mean, at first it seemed like the city of Oakland just thought, hey, here's one crazy guy. He's going to make a few and stop. And then it started growing into a little bit bigger movement, other people working, a lot more homes. Now they're like, okay, now we kind of have to deal with this. And I think they're coordinating off certain areas and just letting the homeless live there. I mean, personally, I think if they took land that's under the highways and land that's next to railroad tracks and kind of open that up for more experimental housing as far as being legal. I mean, there was a big encampment over off of MLK and maybe 32nd where just the people in the neighborhood built little homes. They rented some porta potties. They had security guards there. They let the homeless live in this park, but the park was under the highway. City of Oakland came in, threw everything away because they have a contract with Caltrans, which is a state entity that they were going to keep under the highway steering clear. This, the lawyers get into it. And they say, hey, you can't really have this because we got a contract with Caltrans. Along the railroad tracks, it's Union Pacific. That's kind of a national company that you kind of have leases and you say, hey, I'm going to maintain it to a certain level. But I think if we opened it up for that and say, all right, well, we're going to have our lawyers draw up some papers, abscond us from any legal connection to what happens underneath that highway. If it collapses and kills the people, those people can't go back and sue the city of Oakland. You'd free up a lot of land, and then you would free up a lot of different types of homes that you could build, and smaller homes. There's a lot of small, tiny home communities coming up. Austin, Texas, Milwaukee, outside of Milwaukee, and in like Olympia, Washington, where they take like one container, two containers. One is a kitchen, another is a bathroom and kind of a wash house, and then around that you park a bunch of tiny homes. So we would all have our own little space to chill in, but if you have to use the restroom, you want to cook some food, you go to a central location, almost like a camp. So you're only hooking up one sewer pipe instead of 20. And if we experimented with those, I think that would be a lot better. I think we're also realizing, hey, the homeless are there. I mean, if you like it or not, you can't really sweep them away. You can't euthanize them, or you can't, they're not going to get a nice apartment when, the guy wants to sell it for, the real estate agent for $1 million. You're not going to give it to someone like this. So I just think opening up, expanding our mind of what a home could be and what maybe we should do with these people. And it's all mental. I mean, you think, look what we do with the military, man. We bring hundreds of thousands of people around the world. We house them, we feed them, we give them guns, we give them planes. We can do things. But, homeless is kind of seen as this dead end that, doesn't further anyone else. It isn't going to make you money. A lot of people who want to donate, hey, but we need to see some results. Okay, I'll donate a house, but after a year, they got to be, a productive member of society and start a whole new business. They got, there's this pressure, and if that doesn't happen, we don't want to give money to it. But, now we're getting to a tipping point. I mean, I think everyone sees that, hey, we got to almost start doing with it. If it's maybe not a moral thing, but just for our own sense of I don't know, society. I mean, it takes down. If you buy $1 million house and around you is a bunch of homeless people, seems like, hey, wouldn't you want to take some of that money you bought the house with, earmark, 5% to donate something to just try some experimenting, If it's these housings, if it's containers, if it's something else, let's play around. Let's see what can happen. And, I think that would open it up for everyone too, as far as alternative housing. A lot of people like the tiny homes now. They build a home on a trailer. You live in that. It's a cheaper way of living, and we don't need that traditional house. People aren't having the traditional families and the whatnot. So we can kind of experiment around. I'd like to kind of start a school of just kind of low-tech experimentation to today's problems, whether it's transportation, whether it's housing, reusing stuff. A lot of times they're found out with the homeless, when they have a shopping cart, that's stolen property. So that's why the police can hassle them. They can, they shut down recycle centers because the guy running a recycle center is dealing in stolen property because he's giving money and accepting cans from people with a shopping cart. Maybe it seems like a dumb law, but, that's what they want to do. And I guess it is stolen. You stole it from Target or, Walmart, whatever. Do we make some different carts? Do we, look at different ways of recycling? I mean, these people are just, for the most part, I've had some problems with homeless too. I got kids. I have my kids walk into my house with human feces on their feet that I got to clean up. I got to watch out for needles. I've been hassled. I've had some stuff stolen. The more, people say, hey, there's a lot of crime. First off, homeless is a broad term. There's a lot of different types of homeless. So I don't want to just paint one picture, but, when they say, oh, these people are just, drug-using, crime-ridden, they break into your cars, this and that. Normally, they don't do that. If you leave something out and it's on the street, sure, usually it's gone. And that isn't just with homeless. And homeless aren't the only ones using drugs. I know people in condos and houses using drugs. It's kind of hard to have a full-blown cocaine habit on cans and bottles, That stuff's coming over for other people. And it's just, a lot of people with housing are like, hey, you can't give a house to someone unless they're clean, unless they're trying to get a job, unless, we got to pee test them. It's like, well, what if you went to buy a house and that, let me check your pee. Oh, no, sorry, you don't qualify. That doesn't work. We have some liberties that we should uphold.
You mentioned having workshops. When are you doing those? And can people donate materials to your workshops?
I have a place in East Oakland. It's called NIMBY, way on 84th. Kind of off of International, right behind the Coliseum there. So every Friday, I'm going to do them. Yeah, if you guys want, homelesshomesproject.org. You can email me, There's a little, yeah, if you want to Instagram, you can follow that, Homeless Homes Project. But what I'm going to do now is just every Friday, I'm just going to have an open build. Materials, I was open for that. I'm kind of a garbage snob. You know, people, oh, you work with garbage. Here, I got some stuff for you. And it's like, you know, some stuff's real garbage. Unfortunately, like IKEA furniture, you know, that particle board stuff that really isn't good. You know, a lot of people drop that stuff off, and you can't work with it. I mean, plywood 2x4s are good. Casters are good. You know, there's some bolts. I mean, I can give a little more detailed list of some things that are needed. I mean, right now I have a lot of materials. It's pretty easy to get materials. I mean, we throw a lot of stuff away in society, and everyone with a garage usually has a bunch of junk in there too they could show up with. Paintbrushes, paint rollers, a lot of that. But, you know, once I start, just because of the rains, it's an outdoor workspace, so I haven't been working that much. And, you know, I kind of go in fits and spurts. I mean, I don't really make money. Making homes for homeless is not the real target group to get money. So I do other work, too. And I've been kind of caught up in some other projects, but now I kind of want to get back and open it up. Because, yeah, there's a lot of people who want to go out and do something. And, you know, it's fun. We build, we have a barbecue, we hang out, you know, you meet some cool people, I don't know, just make a crazy home. I mean, I make homes, I don't use a tape measure, I don't use a level, I just throw the stuff together. So, you know, it's a nice, quick, immediate way to do things.
I'd like to know, what do you think is the main reason that you can take out of all their stories that makes them end up in the streets? And how do you think the system can change to help them in the long run?
I mean, no two stories are alike. Usually it's, you know, let's maybe think about us. What if something happened to any of us here and all of a sudden you didn't have a home tonight? You know, maybe you can crash on a friend's couch or something like that and you can get by. You know, what if that turned into a week? What if that turned into a month? You know, now you're a year into it. You know, you can't just say, hey, Sheila, take a shower and go apply for a job. You know, she's been on the street for 20 years. You know, obviously there's a lot of mental issues. I mean, Reagan kind of kicked off a lot of homeless here in California by closing up all the mental hospitals. You know, we just wanted to pin that off. We ship a lot of them to Nevada because it's cheaper out there. Drug use is a lot of safety nets. I mean, I know something happened to me. I always got mom's house. You know, I can go back there, but what if I didn't have mom? You know, where would I go? And you kind of burn through your friends and, you know, then you're out there. Education, you know, that's a lot, and I think society as a whole. I mean, they did a study in Utah, of all places, Salt Lake City. They took some homeless and they just rented them a house. Here's an apartment. It's paid for. Your electricity is paid for. Your water, everything. You don't have to worry about anything. And they juxtaposed that to people living on the street. At the end of the year, the person in the house costed $22,000. The person on the street costed like $35,000. And that was because people would call the police on them. The police would have to come, arrest them because, oh, they had an open beer in there or something happened. Someone thought they were dead, but they were just sleeping. So the ambulance comes, picks them up, brings them into the hospital. Just all these court costs, all these hospital visits, everything else added up to be more than just the apartment. And the person in the apartment didn't have that. So, you know, I mean, again, if you just want to look just basic economics, a lot of it is, hey, if we found a place to put these people, to give them the care that they need. I mean, now we have social services going around trying to track down every individual homeless person to give them what they need. A lot of them can get benefits, but they don't have a mailbox. So where do you send it to? A lot of them need medication, but if you can't find them, you can't give them. If you have them all in one location, it's easier. You know, the social worker goes to one place, services everyone instead of driving around trying to find them. You know, I think it takes a little compassion. I mean, it takes money. I mean, everything takes a little bit of money, and it's where do we want to put it? Our military, you know, we spend trillions of dollars on that, but, you know, social services, even now, everything gets cut back a little bit.